All right, welcome into Los Angeles, California. This is Writer's Block. I'm Bill Reiter, and as you know, and then there was one. Virginia stands alone as national champions. What a turnaround from last year's disgrace against UMBC. We've got an entire show dedicated to a remarkable national championship game from Los Angeles on CBS Sports HQ, starting right now.
Virginia with the all-time turnaround title.
We had a saying all year, the joy of competition and the fun in the pursuit of the championship.
Not a lot of people get along like we do, so to share this moment with them is unbelievable.
We came in together and said that we were going to win a national championship.
We stay calm and we play our game. We never waver in our confidence if the team goes on the run.
The resilience, just incredible. The story is as good as you'll ever find them. It's almost incomparable.
I mean, I have goosebumps watching that. What an amazing tournament. What an amazing journey for Virginia. And don't let the magic of it, the remarkable history of it, get lost, and how often people have said it, including me here on the show. This is one of the ultimate turnarounds in sports history. This kind of a redemption story is only supposed to happen in the movies. Virginia last year, with the worst loss in the history of the NCAA tournament, turns it all the way around to not just cut down those nets and bask in that confetti that was falling for them, but did it in dramatic fashion at every single turn. And yet, despite the fact they're champions, despite the fact they got here, it still took, I mean, I'm getting goosebumps just remembering last night's game, DeAndre Hunter hitting a beautiful, remarkable dagger with about 13 seconds left to eventually force the game to overtime. You see it there. For just a second, Texas Tech thought they had it. They thought it was theirs, but at every turn in this tournament, Virginia's been the opposite of what they were last year. It's like they've taken that lesson, they've internalized it, and it made them that much stronger. And in overtime, as Chris Beard talked about after the game, it was all Virginia and no Texas Tech.
I'm just so proud of our guys fighting back and sending the game to overtime. We had a chance to win it, and then when it get to overtime, we hit the first shot, and then we just couldn't get stops. But let's talk about Virginia. Coach Bennett is one of the most just class guys. And you talk about team of destiny. I just think they're really, really good, you know, the poise, and they just find ways to win. So I want to congratulate them, their program.
I was watching the game on CBS last night with my two kids, trying to explain the emotion behind that moment. Even though I took Virginia all the way, the only thing, I think literally the only thing I got right in my bracket this year, it was still hard to believe that this was reality, because it has been a remarkably brutal path and a very, very thin one in terms of the margin of error for Virginia. Remember, they played a 16 seed, they're a 1 seed this year, against Gardner-Webb, and they were down, as many as 14 points at one point, down in the first half, came back. Close game against Oregon. The game was tied with about 5 minutes and change left. Oregon, really good basketball team despite the 12 seed, get the win. Overtime versus Purdue, had to hit a big shot to send it there. The controversial finish against Auburn, and Kyle Guy, who we had on the show before the tournament, had to go up there and ice 3 free throws. And obviously last night, a second overtime game, and this one utter and total domination. And Virginia, they're enjoying the moment. They're enjoying what they did. And even though it was last year's, and let's call it what it was, a failure, not to put it on them and to give them some kind of a scarlet letter, but because those are the things that make sports teams, that make athletes, that make greats even better, is finding a way to get up from that. Even though that's what turned this Virginia team, make no mistake, into national champions, Ty Jerome at least, and his coach, Tony Bennett, focusing on a very cool moment in the present.
You know, forget last year. This is just everything you dream of since you're a little kid. You know what I mean? I'm not even thinking about UMBC right now. I'm just thinking this is a dream come true.
When you guys play the right way, the collectiveness of it takes over, and I've watched it and I've stepped back and I've seen this, and now I've seen them mature through everything, and for them to do what they did, you know, and how they've won, it's a great story. It really is.
I mean, and by the way, let me add this. And it doesn't always go this way in sports or in life. Tony Bennett, one of the nicest people you will meet in that business or any business. But I'll respectfully say this to Ty Jerome. Just, you don't separate it from last year. Because unlike most NCAA seasons, last year's loss against UMBC is tied to this season's remarkable success story. It's not just the catalyst, it's part of the narrative. And I think for sports fans, it's part of the celebration. I actually had money on Texas Tech last night, even though I had Virginia in my bracket. I thought Tech was going to win that game. I had the 1.5, so I felt really good until overtime. But Virginia, and Frank Martin told me this. I talked to Frank yesterday, the coach of South Carolina, that he thought Texas Tech was the better team headed into that game, but that Virginia had some pixie dust or some magic, and they did. And for every champion, and congratulations, Virginia, you deserved it. Even Auburn fans have to, maybe they don't have to admit it, but Virginia deserved it. There's going to be heartbreak. And when you lose in overtime in a national championship game, all you can do is show love and respect to your team and understand you were that close. And one of the things I love about this final, this championship game, was the class of both of these coaches. Chris Beard afterwards, obviously emotional, obviously difficult, but nothing but praise for his guys.
I've never been more proud of a team that I've coached. I think what these guys have accomplished this year, Big 12 championship, Final Four, national championship game, we'll graduate all 5 seniors here in a couple months, and these guys will go on to be great pros and fathers and husbands, and just never been more proud of a group. A lot of emotion in our locker room right now, and it's real.
We had Chris Beard on the show just before the tournament, too. This tournament turned me into a Chris Beard fan, and some breaking news you've seen on CBS Sports HQ throughout the day. Mick Cronin from Cincinnati going to UCLA. I like that news, and it may not correlate, but I hope it means that Chris Beard's not going anywhere for a long time. I would love to see him turn Texas Tech into a Gonzaga, even if I get carried away, a Duke, to stay at a program. I think he's a remarkable coach. I don't think it's a one-off. So I know it's bittersweet for Texas Tech fans, but they played their butts off, and it was a great game and a great tournament all the way around because, we always look to the future. We've got a little 2020 NCAA championship odds for you. Virginia, the favorite to repeat. It's hard to do. Kentucky 7-1 along with Virginia, same odds. Duke at 8-1. Michigan State at 8-1. Michigan at 12-1. I kind of like that. I kind of like that Michigan bet, right? I want to get a little bit of juice. I want to get a little bit of squeeze with my gambling if I'm going to go there. So I might have to do a little Michigan. I like those futures way out. But for now, staying in this moment, like Ty Jerome suggested, we've got a lot to get to from the tournament, from the game. We're going to give you the Elite 8, clever, right? The Elite 8 moments from the NCAA tournament. And we're going to go inside the numbers on the most outstanding player in the NCAA tournament, Kyle Guy, among other things, when we continue in just a minute here on Writer's Block on CBS Sports HQ. All right, welcome back into the show. It's Writer's Block on CBS Sports HQ. I'm Bill Reiter, and as you can tell, based on the name of the show and my name, we like wordplay here at your home for streaming sports. So we're going to give you ready for this? The Elite 8 moments of a pretty great NCAA tournament. See what we did there? And we start with number 8, Ja Morant, one of the stars of the tournament, even though he didn't play very long, goes for the triple-double in the first round against Marquette in this tournament, in his tournament debut. He went for 17 points, 11 rebounds, and 16 assists. You can see him balling there in a 19-point win over Marcus Howard and Marquette. That was a good one. Ja Morant, man, and that's one of those things, like, what a player. I think he's going to be really special at the next level. All right, next up, we got number 7. We're hitting the entire tournament here. A lot of stuff. Carson Edwards goes off against Virginia, but you know this, we know this. Virginia's champions, not enough in that Elite 8 matchup. Kid had the game of his life, hit every big shot. 42 points, hitting 10 three-pointers. All came down to that last play where he made an errant pass out of bounds. Virginia moves on, and Purdue's road comes to an end. A heartbreaker. So many broken hearts. Even by the standards of the NCAA tournament, you lose your heart broken in the wake of Virginia, Purdue, Auburn. Obviously, last night's game for Texas Tech. Man, Purdue put up such a fight. We don't want to forget that even though we're crowning Virginia champions as well, they should be there. They deserve it. Next up, number 6, little New Mexico State love here. Made a wild comeback against Auburn in the final minute of that first round game. They're down 2 with 3 seconds left. And New Mexico State had a wide open layup and decided to kick it out for a 3 to win it. And Auburn's Bryce Brown fouled Terrell Brown of New Mexico State. Went to the line with a second left, hitting all three to win the game. He missed the first free throw, made the second, missed the third. Ball goes out to Auburn. They still, NMSU had one last chance with a wide open three to win it, but airballed it. As you know, Auburn wound up in the Final Four, but maybe for some controversial calls and the ice in the veins of Kyle Guy, it goes a different direction. Number 5 is an interesting one. We're going to actually play this for you. After a back and forth with Maryland, LSU's Tremont Waters hit a layup to win the game for the Tigers with under a second left to send them to the Sweet 16.
With Waters on the floor, you're going to let him play it out. Waters kicked. Deep one, Mays. Yes! Morcell gets it in. 3-point lead for LSU. There's his drive, nice kick. Kick, Smith for the tie. Buries it! Waters makes his move. 3 seconds. Waters to the rim, layup, good! 1.6. Maryland has no timeouts. Ayala, 3-quarter court. It's over. March equals madness.
One of the really interesting games that you thought was going to emerge on the bracket when it initially came out was Duke, Michigan State. Coach K against Izzo, R.J. Barrett, Zion Williamson, and co. against that Michigan State team. And it was a pretty amazing finish in the Elite Eight, as you know, to give Izzo a chance at another Final Four.
Duke, once he gives it up, face guard, and don't overhelp. Open look, Goins, he hits it!
Put it in play. Gets it to Barrett. He's in the paint. He slashes, he shoots, and he'll shoot a couple.
You got to squeeze Williamson if you're Michigan State, and watch for his foot speed, too.
First one, no.
Michigan State, you got to think of that UCF game. Block out.
Second one, he tries to miss it, but it drops. Tillman up ahead, Winston. No one near him, and he's going to come out with it. And Michigan State is headed to Minneapolis.
I mean, it was the whole it was an amazing tournament. There were so many incredible games, so many close games, so much drama. This is what March and now April is supposed to be all about. And Duke, talented though they were, almost didn't get to that opportunity. It brings us to number 3. They almost lost. Don't forget, to UCF, Zion Williamson misses a free. You know what? Hell, we'll just show you another amazing moment at the end of a game where Duke barely hung on.
End up seven.
Williamson driving in on Taco, and it's going to fall as the basket goes. A free throw to tie it. 5 out of 6 at the line. Missed it. Comes up short. Duke. Barrett follows it up for the lead.
And then
with 11 seconds. Inbound out to Taylor. Jones is on him. Taylor driving. Driving in. Banks it up. No. Put back. In and out. And Duke survives. Just barely.
I mean, that is inches in some alternate universe, in some Rick and Morty parallel dimension. I don't even know who the NCAA champion is, but it's probably somebody else. What an absolutely crazy finish. And I mentioned at the start of the show, Virginia had so many close calls, so many big shots, barely by the skin of their teeth advancing and surviving to get to that point we saw last night, which brings us to number 2, where again, Virginia against Purdue, Mamadi Diakite's buzzer beater to force an overtime that kept their hopes alive. Was another one of those stunning moments, and you felt like that Mamadi shot, that was going to be the biggest, clutchest moment of Virginia's run if they ended up getting it done, but that's not the case. Obviously, DeAndre Hunter had to hit a huge shot himself. Again, Virginia just by the thinnest of margins kept on surviving. And finally, we've got number 1, the ultimate moment from the NCAA tournament in our Elite 8 NCAA tournament moments when, you know what, we're just going to show you Kyle Guy fouled against Auburn, controversial, but still down 2. He's an incredible shooter, an incredible free throw shooter, but you got to go up to that line in that moment, and you, by yourself alone, have to fail or succeed, and we know what happened.
Jerome to inbound. Oh, they got the lob. Looking. It's Guy from the corner for the win. Hold on. Did I hear a whistle?
Wow.
We got a foul call. Desperation shot from the other corner.
Wow. 81%.
He's tied it.
Wow, this is unbelievable.
For the lead. He got all three. He's got Brown all the way in the far court. Might as well heave it all the way the distance. A Grant Hill pass. Here it is. Brown turns around. It's off the mark. And Virginia is heading to its first ever national championship game appearance. With 5 points in the last 8 seconds.
I mean, still heartbreaking for Auburn. Man, Virginia at every turn. And speaking of Kyle Guy, friend of the show, I've said it a few times, it was cool to have him on before the tournament began. The most outstanding player in this tournament. We're going to go inside the numbers on Guy and this tournament and what he's been about, a big part of the reason Virginia are now national champions. It's coming up next here on Reiter's Block on CBS Sports HQ in just a minute.
Just the resiliency this team showed, like you said, is incredible and uncanny. And I don't know how to describe it. I just know that we left it all on the floor, and that's the most important thing for us when we were moving forward and trying to move past everything. We just wanted to leave it all on the floor. We knew we were built for these moments, and we captured them.
That is Kyle Guy. What an incredible moment. What a great player. The tournament's most outstanding player. We're going inside the numbers on what he's about. You see there the number 14.5 first up. Last night, Westgate had Guy's point total at 14.5 points. Congratulations, over bettors. He delivered in the big moments once again, crushed that over, dropping 24 total points against Texas Tech in that national championship game. Next up is 6-1. Kyle Guy may just be as well known and in Auburn infamous for being fouled with less than a second left in that Final Four matchup against Auburn, where he went to the line, as you saw earlier in the show, and hit those 3 free throws in a row to clinch the game and a shot at the national championship. Virginia eventually won. Guy also ended up outscoring Auburn 6-1 in those final 7 seconds, which put Virginia into the big game last night. Next up is number 9 here on Inside the Numbers. Guy this season won the ACC Player of the Year award. He had 9 games this year where he dropped 20 or more points. In those 9 games where Guy scored at least 20, Virginia did not lose a single time, 9-0. How about 23? In one of those 20-point games, Guy scored 29 points in a blowout win over NC State. 23 of his 29 points came on jump shots. In that game, NC State only had 17 points on jumpers for the entire team. And finally, the number 1, in becoming the ACC Player of the Year, Guy led the ACC in minutes played, 3-point field goals attempted and made, and with Virginia winning its first national championship, Guy also became the first Virginia player to win the most outstanding player in the Final Four. And by the way, fun fact, kind of a weird fact, because Virginia won last night, every team since 1997 that has won the NCAA championship has operated as from the Eastern time zone, except one, Kansas, the last time we saw an overtime game when Kansas beat Memphis on Central time zone. All right, a little bit of NBA. It's time. I'm on a little bit of a streak for Bill's big bet of the night. All right, so I love this game. I love Philly and Heat. Heat, 5.5-point dogs. Now, Miami doesn't control their own destiny. The free-falling Pistons do, but the Heat are going to play it up. They are going to be aggressive. They're playing for something. And there is a huge Miami effect. Philly knows they're in the postseason. They're more or less locked in. They're locked into where they're going to be. Trust me, they're probably still out partying right now from last night before they head over to the game. I wouldn't be surprised if half the guys with Philly miss shoot around. You see, I'm 2-0. I'm on a heater. Miami plus 5.5. It is a near lock. Thank you for hanging out on the show. Great game last night. Great NCAA tournament. We're back tomorrow, of course, but hitting a bunch of stuff. May honor Dwayne Wade. His final game, speaking of the Heat, this week is tomorrow. But we want to do this first. We want to close on one of the coolest and neatest moments in sports. Chris Hassel's coming up in a minute, but first, it's one shining moment.
Here we go. Welcome to the NCAA tournament.
Everyone in this tournament is a champion. Now we have to find out where we stand.
The ball is tipped, and there you are. You're running for your life. You're a shooting star, and all the years, no one knows just how hard you worked.
Fletcher McGee is not human. Look at that. Behind the back. Into the hole for two. It's a jam. 3 seconds. Waters to the rim. Layup. Good.
The time is short, and the road is long. In the blinking of an eye.
Put back. In and out.
Gone. And when it's done, win or lose, you always did your best. 'Cause inside you knew.
McQuaid with his back to the basket.
One shining moment. Feel the beat of your heart. Feel the wind in your face. It's more than a contest. It's more than
A grown man slam. He missed it right at the rim.
It's right here on the mic. Watch Madness.
Oh, no. Schuler's the best player on the floor. He's hurt. But we're going to rally.
There's a new member of the Final Four Club.
And when it's done,
Goes!
win or lose, you always did your best.
Open look, Goins, he hits it! Here we go. Second in Jerome. There it is. Hold on, we got a foul call.
Unbelievable ending.
Stepping up big time, Dagger. And what a journey it has been. And we have overtime for the national championship. And Virginia with the all-time turnaround title.